I myself saw him almost every night drink 7,000 calories worth of alcohol.
He was a towering myth in human form. Andre the Giant, standing 7 feet 4 inches and weighing over 520 pounds, was more than a wrestling icon. Oh my goodness, where did you go? He was a living legend known for downing 7,000 calories worth of alcohol in a single night and refusing medical help for fear it would end his career. Andre lived on his own terms, but when he died in 1993, the world turned its gaze to his mysterious daughter, Robin Christensen Rousimov. I saw him behind the ring. I didn't watch the matches. I saw him backstage. He was truly the gentle giant. Could she carry his colossal legacy? Or was she even bigger than the giant himself? The truth might just shock you. The man behind the size. Andre the Giant was not just a towering figure in professional wrestling. His life was a result of a rare medical condition, early physical hardship, and a decision to pursue something far beyond his rural beginnings. Born André René Rousimov on May 19, 1946, in Grenoble, France, he entered the world already weighing 13 pounds, far above average. Though both his parents were of ordinary height, his mother stood 5 feet 2 inches and his father 6 feet 2 inches, André began growing rapidly from a young age. By the time he was 12 years old, André stood at 6 feet 3 inches. At 17, he had grown to 6 feet 7 inches and ultimately reached over 7 foot tall, weighing more than 500 pounds. This extreme growth was the result of a rare condition called acromegaly, caused by excessive production of human growth hormone. The condition leads to continuous growth of bones and tissues and often results in gigantism when it begins in childhood. Despite the effects of this disorder, André initially led a fairly normal childhood and showed no obvious health concerns besides his height. He started school at age 6 and performed well, especially in mathematics. He also excelled in sports, particularly soccer. His massive size gave him a natural advantage, and he often played goalkeeper. At 10 years old, he was already 6 foot tall, making it nearly impossible for anyone to score against him. However, André's education was cut short, not due to poor performance, but because his father needed help on the farm. At the age of 14, which was legally permissible under France's educational laws at the time, André left school and began working full-time on the farm. André's strength allowed him to complete the work of several laborers, but he soon realized his size and power were not being used to their full potential. Farming was not what he envisioned for his future. Although he respected the work, he grew restless and began seeking other paths. That's when he discovered professional wrestling, a field where his enormous size would not just be useful, but celebrated. André quickly became a sensation. In the 1970s, he gained worldwide attention. Crowds were drawn to see the man dubbed the eighth wonder of the world. Children watched him with awe, and adults were amazed at his strength and agility for someone of his stature. His fame soared in the 1980s after joining the World Wrestling Federation, now WWE, where he became a global icon. Life beyond the ring. At 18, André Rousimov moved to Paris, where his exceptional size immediately caught attention. He was discovered by local wrestling promoter Robert Laguitte, who saw commercial potential in his towering frame. While training at night to become a professional wrestler, Rousimov supported himself working as a mover during the day. Initially, he wrestled under the name Jean Ferret, inspired by a legendary Picardian figure, later changed to Jean Ferret. In 1966, Canadian wrestler and promoter Frank Valois encountered Rousimov and would later become his advisor and business manager. Rousimov's early wrestling career began in France, and he made his televised debut against Luc Princière on national television. His appearances, particularly during the 1970s and 1980s, drew massive audiences worldwide. His fame crossed over into mainstream entertainment, landing him roles in films and television. But behind the fame was a rare and poorly understood medical condition. As early as age 14, André experienced an abnormal growth spurt. Doctors wouldn't identify the cause until much later, acromegaly. By 15, he stood well over 6 foot tall. His growth never slowed. His hands, feet, and head enlarged significantly. He wore size 22 shoes, and everyday objects appeared tiny in his grip. This was not simply about looking different. His size created real-world limitations. Nearly everything in modern life is designed for average-sized people, and André didn't fit into this mold, literally or figuratively. Basic tasks were difficult. Using a rotary phone meant he had to dial with a pencil as his fingers were too large for the holes. Airplane travel, essential for his wrestling career, was another challenge. He wrestled nearly 300 days a year, yet airplane lavatories were unusable for him. He had to use a bucket to relieve himself. Regular cars caused discomfort as he rode for hundreds of miles with cramped legs and neck pain. More critically, he wasn't even aware of his condition during his formative years. It's believed he was first diagnosed in Japan in 1971, but it wasn't officially confirmed until 1981 after he sought treatment for a broken ankle. By then, treatments existed to manage acromegaly, though not to reverse its effects. Rouzimov's story is not just about fame or spectacle, but a life shaped by a rare medical condition that remained hidden for years. Wrestling's gentle giant. Andre the Giant's entry into professional wrestling was driven by his extreme physical dimensions. Weighing 540 pounds, his size gave him a distinct advantage in the ring. His hands alone were about twice the size of an average adult's, which made basic tasks difficult for others seem effortless for him. Despite this, Andre competed fairly under the rules of heavyweight wrestling and quickly became a national sensation. He remained undefeated for years, not just due to skill, but because it was nearly impossible to injure him. In some matches, it took 2 or even 3 opponents at once to provide any real challenge. His popularity soared during the 1970s and 1980s, making him one of the most recognizable faces in the wrestling industry. Acromegaly, the condition Andre had, occurs when the pituitary gland produces too much growth hormone. This leads to abnormal growth of bones and tissues, especially in the hands, feet, face, and internal organs. Common signs include enlarged jaws and foreheads, and the condition is often accompanied by chronic pain, mobility issues, and a shortened life expectancy, often around 40 to 45 years. Despite his condition, Andre continued to wrestle for years. He avoided intense workouts because his size alone provided a major edge. Outside the ring, he was known for drinking massive quantities of alcohol, reportedly consuming over 100 beers in one sitting. But behind the public image of a spectacle, Andre often expressed a desire to live a normal life. In his own words, "It's not my fault being the biggest and the strongest. I don't even exercise." As the years went on, Andre began to experience severe physical deterioration. His joints, especially his back and knees, could no longer support his weight. He eventually required knee surgery to continue wrestling. Even after surgery, pain and instability increased. Yet, he kept performing to entertain his fans. By 1992, his condition had worsened to the point where he could no longer continue. He officially retired that year. In the 1980s, Andre reached peak fame, earning millions and becoming a crossover star. His most notable acting role came in the cult classic The Princess Bride, where his size and gentle demeanor left a lasting impression on audiences worldwide. Though his life was cut short by acromegaly, Andre the Giant remains one of the most iconic figures in wrestling and pop culture history. Wrestling's defining moment. On March 29, 1987, over 93,000 fans packed the Pontiac Silverdome in Michigan to witness what would become one of the most iconic moments in professional wrestling history: Hulk Hogan vs. Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. The event was built on months of tension, hype, and anticipation. Andre the Giant, previously an ally of Hogan, turned against him, setting the stage for a long-awaited clash. The visual contrast between the two men was striking. Andre was estimated to weigh over 540 pounds and stood at about 7 feet 4 inches tall, suffering from acromegaly. Hogan, by comparison, was 6 feet 7 inches tall and around 300 pounds. The sheer physical presence of Andre made him a spectacle, but it also came with consequences. In public, Andre often felt alienated. He was regularly stared at, photographed without consent, and approached by people who seemed more interested in his size than in who he was. In interviews, Andre expressed frustration that people tried to use him for his fame or notoriety, not forming genuine personal connections. There were also many reports about Andre's physical capabilities, including his well-documented tolerance for alcohol. Various wrestlers and close acquaintances have shared stories about Andre consuming up to 100 beers or 20 bottles of wine in one sitting. These accounts have never been definitively verified, but they remain part of his larger-than-life legacy. Back in the ring, the match itself began with tension and uncertainty. Hogan tried to lift Andre early in the bout but failed. As the match progressed, Hogan hulkied up, a routine in which he appeared to feed off the crowd's energy. With one final burst of strength, Hogan lifted Andre for a body slam, something few thought possible, and executed his signature leg drop for the pinfall. The crowd reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The moment Hogan lifted Andre became an instant piece of wrestling history. Not only was it a physical feat, but it also marked the symbolic passing of the torch in professional wrestling. WrestleMania 3 elevated both men's legacies and cemented their place in pop culture. Andre the Giant died 10 years later in 1993 at the age of 46 while in France. His health had deteriorated due to complications from acromegaly, but his impact on the wrestling world remains unmatched.